Welcome. It's the penultimate day on the Tour of Catalunya. All set for a breakaway then. Plenty of wind as well. It did indeed have an impact early on, split the peloton. And in fact, as they reassemble themselves, a number decided to try and have or get themselves into a breakaway. There was some moderate success, I've got to tell you. And we have a high quality 11-man break, which we'll be joining in a moment. So the wind coming in today, a moderate one from the southeast, and as a result you can see more or less where, when they got to the coast at Tejay, that's where it all started to break apart. It's quick today, about 43 kilometres per hour is what in rolling terrain, I'll be bound. And this is what they'll be dealing with. Intermediate sprint to sort of tempt them into action very, very early on. So that was dealt with after just 15 Ks. First climb of the day, the Maldona, the bad lady. And then, well, by the time we got to 55 Ks, we had a breakaway. They went for it, and it looks like it's going to stick. Although the peloton are looking reasonably animated. Weather 16 Celsius, a wind 18 kilometres per hour, as we said, coming in from the southeast. They're doing junior races here, don't worry, they haven't shrunk the field just yet. So Easter weekend, time to sign on for duty, and everyone expecting this to either be one of two scenarios: a sprint or a sprint from a breakaway. Time for the smaller teams then to nail their flag to the mast for one last time, you might think. Movistar have been extremely active. Well, don't count those amongst the smaller teams at all. Likewise, Katusha with some options and maybe just retrieving what has been a quiet race for many. Movistar, of course, lead this race with Quintana. They picked out Daya Quintana, by the way, the wrong brother. There you go. So sign up for what's likely to be a tough old day today, even with those with solid wheels. So a bit of a relaxed atmosphere ahead of what was going to turn out to be a tough-ish start. No start for Ben Swift, unfortunately. Sickness overnight meant that he missed the cutting of the bookmarks. Flag finally waved and underway. Dan Martin determined perhaps to try and retrieve the seconds that are missing from him and indeed the podium. He's on 21 seconds deficit, by the way. Richie Porte sits 4 seconds to the good, and it was Etixx Quickstep that started rolling earlier on. First intermediate sprint, we had a suggestion of a breakaway, as you can see. Dan Martin was rushing for that. And in fact, once we've been through that first intermediate, it's settled yourselves down time. 84 kilometres, and as per usual, our host broadcaster's not providing the gap, but we've got it for you anyway. Just under 5 minutes at the moment. Hovering around that marker for quite some time. A little bit of picture breakup as well today, so let's hope that that doesn't get too annoying for you. Quality, I think, will out. And as you can see, two from Cofidis have finally managed to get themselves into the break. Romain and Rudy Mollard. We've got Cameron Meyer from Dimension Data, winner of the Herald Sun Tour, of course, but runner-up in the Nationals. And the big Aussie of Dimension Data is out front. Wanty Group Gobert have been in most of the breaks. Yesterday, Gaetian Byler, 200 to 1 outsider, managed to finish in third place. Good effort by him out of a breakaway, and it's another break, including this time Minard from Wanty. Alex Howes is also here from Cannondale. Lindemann from Lotto Jumbo, he took a great stage, you may remember, uphill finish, stage 7 of the Vuelta last year. He's here. Axel Dumont likewise, and then you get the star turns of the breakaway. I think the others will forgive us. Ryder Ejedal, Giro winner 2012, is in the break. Laurens Tendam, the Wolfman, 9th in the Tour de France a couple of years ago. Chavez, superstar of the last Vuelta with 2 stage wins. Mr. Smiley from Orica-GreenEdge is also in the break. And Peter Vakoc, Czech champion from Etixx Quickstep, is also there. Man who took a stage on the Tour of Britain, some of you may remember. There is Vakoc in his national jersey. And indeed the white clean board, which nobody can read, quite frankly, get some chalk, so much better, and the gap's coming down. It was up to 5.5 minutes, it's now 4 minutes and 13. A bit of motivation behind in the chase. If you're going to get something out of the day, you're going to have to impose yourself and do a little bit of work. Trouble is, there's such a cross section of riders in the breakaway. It leaves very few teams who are not involved. Those who have been doing some pushing: Movistar, Katusha, BMC, who missed out. Team Sky likewise now hobbled because of the absence of Ben Swift for a sprint finish at the end. Tinkoff not there either. Lotto Soudal absent, likewise Lampre-Merida. And as you can see, it's Lampre that are having some fun out front for the time being, thinking of Cimolai perhaps. Well, sitting alongside me today, parachuting in, just getting the quick release off his chute, is indeed Tony Gibb. Good to have you along, mate. It's been an interesting race so far that you join us for this last weekend. Always destined to be a breakaway, and boy, have we got some quality today up the road.
Good afternoon, Carlton, and good afternoon, everybody at home. Thank you for joining us. Happy Easter, and happy Easter to you, old man.
Thanks for the egg, mate.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, yes, a very strong breakaway up the road. I think it originally started with 7 or 8 riders, and then another 3 went across to it. And Cofidis, the team with the strength in numbers, by virtue of the fact that they have 2 riders up there, and everybody else only has 1. So they have Romain, Hardy, and Rudy Mollard. But as you said, Carlton, some very, very strong riders up there indeed. Rider Heizedal, Laurens ten Dam, the American rider for Cannondale, Alex Howes, who very nice guy, lives in Girona, from Boulder, Colorado originally, so likes the up and down rolling roads. You know, there's probably not a flat road in Colorado, so he's one to watch today. So this break has established itself, and with 82 kilometres to go, just under 2 hours of racing, I should imagine they've got every chance of staying away today.
Lampre-Merida, no Louis Meintjes, but everybody else is here. Little Louis, who joined the team, of course, from Dimension Data. That was a bit of a heartbreak for that team who'd nurtured the young man from South Africa. Crashed on stage 3 and decided not to take the start of stage 4. So he's no longer part of the Lampre push today, but they're thinking of Davide Cimolai, and the finish today could well suit him. It's a little bit of a roller coaster into town. It gets absolutely dead flat, not too technical at the end. In fact, there's a 90-degree turn with about 2.2 k's out, and then it's just gentle highway all the way to the line.
Well, just to interrupt you, Carlton, sorry, the finish of today's stage has actually been moved. And I've only just got that via text message from, I know I talk about him a lot when I'm working here at Eurosport, but Gary Beckett from Cannondale, he's always very helpful. I've been friends with him for a number of years, and he's always very helpful with his information. And he said today's finish has been moved for some reason. He's due to finish on the beachfront on the road Vilanova. It's very windy, and there's lots of parked vehicles as it's Easter break with people on the beach, so the finish has been moved. And he's just finding out where to, because the vehicles aren't parked at the finish today because the hotel's only 3 kilometres away, so he's at the hotel at the moment.
Okay, well, let's see what we get a little bit later on. To my mind, they'll probably finish it at the Flamme Rouge, which means that the Flamme Rouge will move back to the 2k marker. That's keeping it well away from the beach. No surprise, Easter weekend, it is party time. The gap's down to 3 minutes and 56, so the chase is effective. The problem is that if a couple of the members of the breakaway decide that they're going to push on, they're capable of getting a steal today. Thinking Alex Howes and thinking Heizedal, of course, thinking Laurens ten Dam, who always likes to go on a long mission. What have they got to deal with still? Well, they're on the climb. I say the climb in the singular. They'll be at the peak of the only categorised climb today. In about a couple hundred metres time. Then they go into a little bowl with a lazy lip to take on. So if you see what I mean, it'll be a more focused descent into the bowl and then flattens out after about 135 k's in the saddle, and then it's going to be a downhill run of 17 kilometres for the last little bit of lumpiness, and then the push for home. It is 197 kilometres today, so there's still a lot of racing to be had, and there's been no panic on the chase, Tony Gibb. They're after them, and it is close down time because too many teams of note that need to get something out of this race have missed out.
They have, and I can only imagine that Lampre have got the director sportif punishment stick being thrown at them for having missed this break, because there's not a lot in it for them to bring this back. Highest placed rider for them, well, they haven't got anyone in the top 10, so you know, it's an interesting one that they're trying to bring this back, and I can only imagine it is the director sportif hitting them with the stick for missing the break. It is a bit of a bad show to miss a break of 11 going up the road, to be honest with you, for a World Tour team. Just going back to what you said about Louis Meintjes not in the race anymore, I thought that was I questioned that move, him leaving Dimension Data going to Lampre.
Yeah, talking about it with Maggie, who people are saying, what's happened to Maggie? Richard on Twitter says, is he now in a darkened room rocking backwards and forwards? I think that's possibly right.
Because he was with a team that was on the up, it was really going places. They've signed, obviously apart from Mark Cavendish, they've signed some massive riders for this year, and they've had some great success. And he's gone to Lampre, which is a traditionally Italian favoured team, so he had
his head turned, and one can only think it's probably had a few zeros on the end of the note that he was passed, that he's liked the look of. But unfortunately, Dimension Data, who'd nurtured the boy, part of Africa's team, he is of course a South African himself, and he's left them behind, and they didn't like it, but had to take it. And so Louis is with Lampre. How much of he was going to be a sizable fish within the Dimension Data's plans, and now he's very much part of
the team. He's just another one of the team, and he's not with
certainly not a principal focus. That's
and not wanting to put it wrong, he's not one of the favoured nationalities within Lampre. You know, they tend to favour the Italian riders. It's a strong Italian team. Personally, I think he would have been much better off where he was.
A lot of people agree with you, including me. I Am Cycling then also joining the fun. They're not in the break either. Who aren't in the break? Well, Caio Rural. Yeah, I know. You're probably thinking, what? Who? Caio Rural, Rompot, Wanty Group, Gobert, CCC Sprandi, Velva, Active Jet, etc. These pro-continental teams, their alma mater really is about being up there. All right, Wanty have got Minar up there, so my mistake. But Rompot, Caio Rural, CCC, they want to be up front. They want to be seen. Wanty have done a great job. They did a super one yesterday with Getjimbaila. I was really proud of him, actually, the way he rode yesterday. He is a tough man. We know about him, but clearly many people did not. He started the day 200 to 1, finished third. Very strong out of what was a strong breakaway yesterday. So they've dealt with the hour climb. That was Chavez who decided to show his climbing legs. He probably needed to be seen, to be honest, as they head into the bowl. As we said, it's a less focused ascent out of the bowl before they take on 17 k's of descending. That'll be quite quick as they go through Monastir Santas Creus. You'll see a few barbecues at the side of the road. They're doing a biggest ever paella from the village, which they'll be going by as well. Not tempted to stop for a snack, I'm sure. And these guys, well, they have had the whip handle cracked above them, and Lampre are doing most of the chasing. Welcome back. I Am Cycling, clearly not happy about missing out on the break today, and they've decided to join the fun. They doing most of the pushing just for the time being, along with Lampre-Merida, and the gaps come down to just under the 4-minute mark now with 76 kilometres to go. I really thought this breakaway was set for the day because of the personnel within it, and I still think it might well be, but as a reduced group, some of them already starting to suffer ever so slightly. Axel Dumont of AG Tour Le Mondial, I don't know whether it's kidology, but just went back to the car and looked frankly tuckered out. So he's taken on a bit of cake. And you do get your treats occasionally, especially on an Easter weekend. And there is a local cake here that's handed out, sort of sticky honey and slightly perfumed, bit heavy for me, to be honest, but goes down nicely with a cup of the local coffee. Not the best coffee in the world here in Spain. Sorry, people of Spain, coffee. Italy's the place. Anyway, Alex Howes is here. He had a fantastic World Championship, actually. He was in that big push as they were going up what is now going to be called Sagan Boulevard, I am sure, taking the turn at the end. Finished 12th And so, yeah, handy guy and a powerful man as well, Alex Howes. He's one of those workers that rarely gets off the leash. Well, he is today, isn't he?
He is off the leash today, and the Cannondale squad much more settled this year after the Liquigas Cannondale Garmin merger of last year. The squad seems to be much more settled. There's some new personnel come in, especially staff as well. There's been a few changes, and a few of the personalities and the clash of personalities has been weeded out for this year, and the riding staff seem to be benefiting from that. And talking to Gary again earlier, he said that Rigoberto Urán, who has come in, no airs and graces about him, very nice guy. Yeah. Very humorous. He's always up for a laugh and a joke, and doesn't mind being referred to as the Colombian Mick Jagger, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. He's got that sort of that chubby chops look about him, and he's a bit of a teddy bear. I've got to tell you, he's a nice guy. Is Rigoberto, one of my favourites. Sort of functions very well on rolling stages with sort of modest climbing. I know he can go well in the high mountains as well, but can also time trial. If he'd been part of the break today, he'd have been an absolute corker. But it's Ali Howes who's managed to make it. Just rolling to the front, rider Ejidal. There he is, that rangy character. The distance between his knee and his ankle is about the length of Chile. He is a very, very long, angular, almost praying mantis-like guy. Couldn't be a nice amount off the bike. Took the Giro in 2012. A couple of clouds about him, of course, since then, but he's on the bike for Trek Factory Racing these days. Lawrence Tendam, the Wolfman, who takes more. I think he likes the taste of tarmac. He's had more face plants than I'll care to, or he would care to remember, I am sure. He's remodelled his face so many times he grows a beard. Well, he's in the break for Giant-Alpecin. We also have Peter Vakoc, I beg your pardon. Peter Vakoc, the Czech champion, took a stage at the Tour of Britain. That was the stage from Clitheroe last year, and that's not dissimilar to the sort of terrain we're dealing with today. Sort of light climbs, but he went extremely well then. And we've got Smiley Chavez in here as well.
Can I just confirm you've compared Clitheroe to Spain in the Tour of Catalunya?
Well, they both do a local sausage. Anyway,
so Lampre and I am on the front chasing this, and again, as we said earlier, I can only imagine that's because the director sportif has got the hump and said, right, you've missed the break, it's time for you to try and bring it back, because neither of those teams has got anybody in the top 10 on classification overall. And just going back to what you said earlier, Carlton, about Caja Rural, a very, very good, long-established Spanish team. They're very well supported. They could step up to be a World Tour team, but they choose to stay where they are as a Pro Conti team and do it very well. And they've actually got Hugh Carty, English rider, riding for them. He's 9th overall at the moment at just 1 minute and 1 second down. And only, I think 3 years ago, I'm right in saying, he was riding domestic races in the UK for, at the time, the Rafa Condor Sharp team. So he's started his own career, he's gone his own way, and having a fantastic start to his career.
Well, Caja Rural picked him up after his victory in Korea, and he's done a great job. He leads the Young Riders competition, by the way, by a handsome margin of 44 seconds coming into today. 3 minutes and 25. Hey, we've got a race on our hands. Honestly, I didn't want to say, but I thought this was such a super break. It was nailed on while hammering at the moment Lampre and I Am Cycling, and I think they're doing a favour for the likes of Tinkoff, also for Sky, who are 2 players down, don't forget. Geraint Thomas went out early, and I'm afraid as well Ben Swift and Boswell likewise. So Team Sky have had a Swift with illness at the top of the day, or through the night, I'm afraid. So unfortunately he's decided that today was not to be him. Now this is the Playa Manlio over a big sort of rio, so a dry riverbed, but fills up because of the mountains around here. So we know that we kind of dealt with the major obstacle of the day. And we're on this wide open plateau, as you can see, and furrowed farmlands. Luckily the wind has abated, because there's a lot of drying earth here, and honestly dust can be as bad as ice on occasion, especially if you're going quickly, which they will be doing again as we hit that downhill run towards home today.
And it is a downhill run as well, especially looking at the profile for the last couple of kilometres, last 3 kilometres, virtually all downhill. And even the last 70k of the race, apart from one small climb up to 420 metres, but they're already at about 200 metres, it is a big run downhill. And the chase is on in earnest here by IAM and Lampre.
Certainly is. We're going to take ourselves a brief break, and then we'll be back to see if this breakaway want a race. Let's have a race. 71 kilometres remaining today, and the pack's being pushed on, and you can see that the cadence of our breakaway is, they haven't gone all in, let's put it that way. And with 3 minutes and 20 the gap now, they've lost a couple of minutes in quite short order. It was a short fuse on the device that has been let go by Lampre-Merida here, and they are on it. Everyone else is to their benefit.
It is to everybody else's benefit. You've got Lampre and IAM cycling, working very hard on the front of this bunch to bring it back. And as I said earlier, this can only be the director sportifs wielding the big, heavy "you've missed the brake" stick, because they're not going to get anything out of this. So Lampre and IAM on the front of the brake, riding hard.
Real serious conversation going on at the moment amongst Lampre. I can only imagine that their radio ears are starting to buzz, possibly bleed. They've been told by the DS to get up there and get something out of this, for goodness sake. They lost Louis Menkes, who was looked like he was likely to get something out of the race, be part of a breakaway. They've missed the break again today, Lampre, and the DS doesn't like it. Sitting just very close at hand and waiting to take over chasing duties, Movistar and Katusha. Movistar, they are monitoring the situation on behalf of the leader, Nairo Quintana. Katusha, well, things haven't really gone their way, quite frankly, during this race. And they'd like something, please, especially on a bit of a sprinty day. They've got Zakarin, who was their chosen son for overall, but they've got Satovic, who can go very, very quickly. And time's running out with only one more day of racing. That's tomorrow, with those 8 laps of 3K, Category 3 climbs, 8 Category 3 climbs right at the very end, to decide, well, all kinds of things potentially. The gaps at the top not that big overall. In fact, the top 5 separated by 27 seconds. Dan Martin picked up some points, some bonus seconds in the first sprint of the day, trying to close on Richie Porte. So it was a race for glory at the top of the day by Etixx Quickstep. In fact, they've done a job, because Peter Vakoc is in the breakaway. These are the chasers. Just going through Lampre-Merida, they're still listing Louis Menkes there, but he's not part of proceedings anymore. And here come Francis Dejeux. Guess what? They've also missed the break and wouldn't mind having a go with Retzer or Manzin, who are capable at the very end. So it's all hands to the pumps at the moment. The ship, as far as the peloton were concerned, sinking slightly, but those who ran to the front and caused all kinds of problems, they still remain about 3.5 minutes up the road.
They do, and 70k to go. Small problem here, so this will be interesting for the Rompot riders. So Rompot are one of the teams that have totally adopted disc brakes for this year.
Yeah, except they're not turned up with them here, and it's because of neutral service problems, apparently. Huub Doyne, that was. He, earlier on today, was part of the original attempt at a breakaway, and the efforts he put into that, unfortunately, have come to naught, and now he's gone and got himself a technical. So here we are. Go a little bit of cross-country, why don't you? And get yourself back in as quickly as you possibly can. So yeah, they've decided to. Oh, in fact, they've adopted them. Well, there you go.
I didn't want to jump in, but when we saw the pictures earlier of the team cars, they all had.
Haven't had them all week. Yeah. What about that? Well, they were supposed to be on them for the entire race. I don't know whether they decided to take the chance. We've been talking long and hard about these disc brakes and the adoption of them, and what havoc it calls if it's only a few teams that actually adopt them, and your problems with neutral service if you do.
Well, I was very lucky to be filming something on Thursday with I can't really say, unfortunately, but I was talking to someone from Specialized, and they are in the process of launching their new Venge with disc brakes.
And you can't say.
And the day after, I can't say what I was filming, and the day after we actually discussed this, there was a photo of an Etixx Quick Step rider who was stopped for a coffee somewhere with a picture of his bike, and you couldn't see the actual discs, but you could see that he didn't have standard brakes on the new Specialized Venge. So even the top end, it was Gaviria, sorry, that posted the picture. So even the top end, these new aero bikes that are coming to the market are now being reworked to have disc brakes on them. And a good friend of mine, Russ Mayer, who works for Focus Bikes at the moment. I've been speaking to him because I'm literally waiting for my new Focus's Alco Max to turn up with E-tap and disc brakes on it.
Honestly, he's like a kid in a toy shop. 3 minutes and 19 is the gap right now, so it's kind of holding just for as we stand. Once they get over this little incline, this is the one that I was telling you about, the open lip out of the bowl, and then we descend for 17 kilometres until we have about 50 k's remaining, about 47 k's if you want to be pedantic, will be the distance once they get to the bottom of that. Cannot wait to see how it pans out. Now, for the time being, everyone's leaning on the teams up front, but Lotto Soudal have decided to join the fun as well. They've lost Tosh Van der Sande, but they still have Louis Verwijker, who could nick something out of the day. I guess on a stage race such as this, especially with so many big names, you really would like something, you know, you get a victory on a stage here and you can say, look who was taking part. And the start list of this race is quite outstanding, is it not?
It is, yeah. This race is, it's kind of billed as the pre-tour, shootout to see who's got the form and who's going well, especially for the Tour and maybe even for the Giro as well. But there's so much bike racing going on in the world at the moment. Paris-Nice starts today. We've got obviously the Tour of Catalunya. Tour of Normandy has just finished as well. So there's a lot of riders racing all around the world at the moment. And also, just going back to what you said earlier about the sickness, the flu is ripping through both the pro peloton and the staff that work for the riders at the moment. Everyone's getting sick, and
it's true.
It doesn't help that riders might go from one race to another race and mix with different teams in terms of, drop a rider out of the Catalunya team and put it into this team for this race, or the Classics team. So it goes around very quickly indeed.
Here's your man. Watch out for him, because you're going to be hearing a lot about Hugh Carthy. He's 6'3" plus, just a little bit over that. We're talking about up Clitheroe Way. That's where he used to have his fun, on the A6 Garstang roads and out towards the Trough of Bowland. Beautiful part of the world, by the way. And if ever you happen to be up there, take a stop at the Inn at Whitewell, and you might just see Hugh's mates from the local wheelers up there zipping by, and you'll enjoy yourself a very nice pint or a fruit juice, depending on how healthy you're feeling.
Well, he's 6'3", Carlton, but he's 63 kilos.
I know, honestly.
He's so light, it's ridiculous.
He's like a bow. You could probably fire him in the best possible way. Well, at the moment, he's a bit of a weapon as far as Kaya Rural are concerned, and great that they picked him up. I think that's a loss to a lot of Brit teams, but he may well be coming home. You never know if Kaya Rural ever let him go. He's doing a great job for them. We're going to take. Welcome back. A lot of questions, one of which, of course, how's Chris Froome doing? Well, he's come out of a long block of training, and being fit is one thing, being race fit is entirely another thing. And just for the time being, Froome is kind of finding his race condition, I think it's fair to say. In reasonable nick, he's as cantankerous as ever, which is terrific. He was out there telling the motorcycles to stop helping by filming too close to the chasing pack, when, of course, Pauls went up the road. So he's being as vocal as ever in support of his teammates, as you'd expect. So, and we're going to be having a brief word with him in a short while, so look forward to that. Well, is it the parade of the damned? That's what we're wondering at the moment, because quite frankly, the push that's going on behind our breakaway at the moment is extremely focused. And these guys, it's got an air of a clubby ride about it. Anyway, we're going to take a brief hiatus and have a word with Chris Froome. Well, we did at the top of the day, obviously. We're not riding alongside him at the moment. But yeah, it's what sort of shape he's in at the moment, what he's going to get out of this race. He's sitting in the overall standings in 8th place, 46 seconds down. It's not going to be victory. I guess what have we found out, or what he's found out about himself? Now he's back and racing again.
How do you judge your performance on the two mountain stage? What's your opinion about your performance on the two mountains?
Yeah, I'm happy. This is my first race back at the World Tour level. So of course I'm still finding my legs, but I'm happy. If I compare my condition to this time last year, I think I'm in a good place.
Well, if he compares it to last year, he is in a very good place. Finished 71st last year, wasn't well. Well, he's sprightly, he's up for it, and it's great to see him back in the saddle and captaining his team, of course, and thinking very deep into the season. Froome's got some very, very big fish to fry, Tony Gibb, and he starts quite rightly as favourite for the Tour de France once more.
Yeah, I think so, and that will be a massive achievement if he wins that race again. It
hasn't got a knighthood yet. I'm thinking a dukedom. We'll see.
I mean, for
Marquis
me,
at least. Go on.
You know, trying to be impartial here, the British public certainly hasn't warmed to him in the same way that they have in the past to Sir Bradley Wiggins. I think Brad makes quite a lot out of the fact that he grew up in the UK and he's a lad from Kilburn and has done everything on a bike. He said the other week that, you know, if cycling was a computer game, he would have completed it by now, which I think is quite a fair thing to say. And I think he's done it on the track, he's done it on the road, he's done it time trial wise, he has done absolutely everything. And I think the British public are just struggling a little bit to warm to Chris Froome in the same way.
Not me. I think he's great. 63 Ks remaining today. We're on this sort of squirrely descent. Can we use that word? I think so. It's windy. It's not the sort of road that you could enjoy to its fullest unless it was closed, but of course it is, and these guys are doing exactly that. It's a beautiful rolling surface, and it's the sort of day that you would reach for your bike and think, you know what, I'm going to go for a long downhill run and pick myself up a chorizo at the bottom.
Yeah, and you can see from the overhead camera, look at this descent, it's absolutely beautiful. You don't have to worry about any cars coming the other way. The surface looks absolutely
gorgeous.
Lovely. So a lot of these races, I know the Tour of Yorkshire, for example, all of the roads in Yorkshire now have either been resurfaced or are being resurfaced, and that's a legacy from the Tour de France and the Tour of Yorkshire that's up there every year.
It's interesting, the roads in Catalunya are a legacy of the 1992 Olympic Games. They had shocking infrastructure. Well, Antonio Samaranch managed somehow to get the Olympics to his home city, and then of course they said we can't afford it, so Europe piled in. So if you like the look of these roads, please go and play with them because you paid for them. 62 Ks to go. No bitterness, it's just a fact.
Look at that. just look at those winding roads. They look absolutely brilliant. You could have so much fun on those.
You know what, Tony? No wonder the peloton has turned its mind back to Spain after taking a brief affair with the Middle East. This is where the spring racing and conditioning really takes place again, and everyone loves it, don't they?
Well, they do. The GC riders tend to come to the Spanish races because the weather's that bit warmer and a bit nicer, and the races are a little bit more relaxed in terms of the crashes and the fighting for the front of the peloton than the classics are.
You get more out of them as well than you do out of, with respect, the Middle East races, which generally tend to be luxury hotel, cloverleaf shaped course. You don't move around. It's all very nice if you like a jacuzzi, but frankly, if you want to find out how your cycling legs are, Spain's the place.
Well, I was comparing it to the classics more than the Middle East races because the classics are more fractious. There's a lot more fighting for the front of the bunches, and the weather's more likely to be questionable, shall we say, than it is in Spain. So the GC riders tend to come here, and then the classics teams tend to go to Spain, and this is something that Geraint Thomas is wrestling with at the moment. You know, he's trying to go well in the classics, but trying to balance that with you know, his Grand Tour ambitions in the next couple of years.
Wrestling, yeah, we'll see. Like with his duvet, can't decide which tog. 61 kilometres. I guess when you're blowing hot and cold, then that's exactly it. And that, given exactly what we're saying, you'll forgive the illusion. Temperature changes, you know, going to really nasty, grisly conditions in the north, coming to a hot country, hot part of the world at this time of year in Spain. You're going to be travelling on public transport as well. One person has a sneeze. They're good sharers. If you've got influenza on an aircraft these days, you get sick, and it's just one of those things. Keeping yourself healthy is a difficult thing at this time of year, isn't it? Very
difficult thing. I was lucky enough to pop over to Mallorca for the Team Sky training camp for a couple of days, and all around the hotel, so even though the hotel is closed to the public, they have the whole hotel. There's hand sanitizer spray all around the hotel, and they ask everybody that comes in to use that as often as they walk past it, just to protect everybody's health and to make sure no one's getting any illnesses. And it's been a very, very mild winter in Europe this year, and the thinking is that all of the germs and nasty little bugs haven't been killed off by the cold temperatures, and that's why there's so much illness ripping through the pro peloton at the moment.
Ripping up the road right now, it's Lampre, and they've got some help. Even Katusha joining the fun, and Lotto Soudal and Francis Tejay. This is a chase down. "60 kilometres to go, following the line of the motorcycle. Not a great thing. Just do your own thing, essentially, if you're on a chase down. We've got a breakaway up the road. And in fact, for the first time, really, they are looking a bit doomed, courtesy of the amount of effort that's being put on or into the chase. And staying in a safe place. Movistar getting a free ride at the moment. Don't have to really defend the jersey, because there are teams here who've got nothing out of this race, and they are kind of getting desperate with only one more racing day to come tomorrow. So the gap's starting to tumble, Tony, and no surprise. I said we were either going to have a breakaway or a sprint finish, and it looks like it's going to be a sprint in the end.
Nothing like hedging your bets, eh? And yeah, I think it will come down to a sprint finish. We've got tomorrow's stage, which basically goes out and does a bit of a loop and then comes back and does, well, we've got 8 laps of the city with a small climb in it. So it's virtually a kermesse with a climb once a lap. But I think that will probably come down to either a bunch sprint or a rider that's not involved in the GC trying to get away. But because this race is so tightly packed, we've got Quintana 7 seconds ahead of Contador, Porte 10 seconds behind Contador, and then Dan Martin 3-4 seconds behind Richie Porte. So there's all still a lot to play for. Just not sure the time gaps are going to be there at the end of the stages.
Just look at this. I'm cycling, so who are they thinking of today for them? Well, Jonas van Genechten, they've got Pantano and Martin Elmiger as well, who are good lead-outs for them. What about Lotto Soudal? They've got to be thinking about Verwijk. What about, Cimolai, of course, for Lampre-Merida. On a lot of people's tick list as far as technical finishes are concerned. How will it look today with the slightly amended finish line? We'll wait and see. 58 kilometres remaining, and the gap's down to just under 2 minutes now, we're hearing, but only from a scratchy race radio that sounds like a bee trapped in a jam jar, because that's the only information we're getting at the moment. But I'm hoping I've heard that right. 57 Ks remaining then, as they thread a lovely line through this gorgeous road that we're dealing with at the moment as we head down towards the coast. It's a long, long way out, this. The breakaway could still produce something. Ryder Hesjedal's not been on stellar form, and he finds himself starting the day an hour down and more. But the Canadian can time trial pretty well, and from a reduced group he can go extremely well. I'm just wondering, do you see this breakaway that we are not focusing on at the moment, this is the chase? Do you see the breakaway fracturing and then having some life again, reinvigorating itself?
Not really. I see it maybe fracturing just before they get caught, but I think it's that far out. They're going to get caught fairly soon. Looking at the time gaps, I think we're down to about 2 minutes, aren't we, at the moment?
A little less, according to our friend the bee in the bottle. Just looking with the camera right now, a lovely heat haze we've got, as you can see. It's only when the weather, meteorologically, we have a storm that we get that clarity again returning. Well, thankfully, it's been a dry race so far. And the land's starting to get that terracotta look of scorched earth. And there they are. And they're really strung out. They're lucky, frankly, Tony, that the wind's abated today, because it was blowing a hoolie earlier.
Yeah, and this is one of the characteristics of racing in Spain. There's a lot of open plains and almost desert-like.
It's where the rain falls mainly.
I knew that was coming. Almost desert-like conditions, and when it's windy here, the wind does whip through the hills and cause a lot of problems. And we see here that the chase is really on in earnest, and there's no one team really, is there? We can see 5 Lotto riders there, Lampre, IAM, FDJ, so it really is the stick of director sportif, because there's no real overall ambitions to be won or lost by the break today. So
I think that was Bernie Eisel actually coming up and having a chat, just saying, guys, forget it, you're not going to make it, just give up now. Working on behalf of the Ministry of Bad Information because Meyer's in the break, of course. Bernie Eisel, when he was fit and before his collarbone disaster, I think today would have been a great day for him, quite frankly. It was his sort of day, the big powerful Austrian. But he's riding himself back into form, and good to see him back on the bike. And in fact, all the riders who've had their troubles. It's nice to see Giant-Alpecin as well, after what was an absolutely disastrous impact with an elderly British lady, I understand, 72 years of age. Forgot which side of the road to drive on, and piled straight into the Giant-Alpecin team while they were training
camp, wasn't it, at the start of the year?
The monastery of one of the saints. Evening vespers will be rung tonight on this Easter weekend. It's all taken terribly seriously in this part of the world, of course. More about the religion than it is about the Easter egg. Although Tony's brought the chocolate in today, which I'm very, very pleased about. Thanks, mate. I haven't had a chomp just yet, but will do. Taste for action today. 54 kilometres to go, and back to our monastery. It looks like they've enamelled the tiles to make the roof green. A bit of fakery to pretend that they've actually got a copper roof there, which obviously they couldn't afford. But anyway,
so 2 minutes for the break. It's just dipped under 2 minutes for the break.
We told them, didn't we? I tell you what, we'll take a break and calm ourselves down, and we'll be. Welcome back. Minute and 47, and I think the break is doomed. Yes, it's a closing gap, and it's been driven on by a team that have been frying themselves, and that is IAM Cycling. In fact, it looks like Dimension Data as well are up, not just to disturb the fact. They're telling the camera bike to get out of here. Well, there you are. Get out. Stop drafting the chase down. That was Dimension Data coming up and saying, for goodness sake, do you mind? Thank you very much. You wouldn't argue, would you?
Well, you wouldn't argue, but it's become a thing, hasn't it? I mean, for years and years and years, no one mentioned the camera bike, and now it's every race. It's the camera bike helped, or the camera bike knocked someone off. It's becoming the de rigueur excuse, really. It's wearing a bit thin already for me.
There you are. Headmaster has spoken. 52 kilometres to go, and the gap here is tumbling. Still plenty of riding today, but unfortunately they can't really assemble themselves or decide who I think is going to push on from the breakaway. And with the gap down to about 1 minute and 50, effective work has been put in by the chasers. It's starting to get a bit nervy back there as well. Bernie Eisel had a word, so did Konstantin Switzer and Van Zyl. And finally the camera bikers pulled away from the nose of the chasers. Basically he was deemed to be assisting the chase down in an aero fashion. Anyway, right now it's about Lotto Soudal, Lampre and I Am Cycling, and they look like they're shooting the breeze, and that's because they've been able to knock it back because they know that they're in a wind-in position. They've done the job essentially, and I think we're going to get a hiatus in hostilities now, Tony Gibb, for about the next 20 or 30 Ks, while they just hold the gap at about the 2-minute mark, and then they'll crush them and have their fun. Well,
it's 1:47 now, so it is coming down quite quickly. It will be very early to catch them if they do so. You know, if they do bring it back, you know, the rate they're bringing it back at the moment, they'll bring it back with 35, 40k to go. Really don't want to do that because that just then opens up the bunch to another load of attacks. So you see everyone there offloading their litter. So this will be one of those predetermined areas where they can dump all the litter and it all gets picked up by the organisation, which is a fairly recent invention. I think is a good one as well. It means the whole of the countryside doesn't get littered with rubbish, so everyone's just unloading with 50k to go, and that'll be gel wrappers and everything else. And they've had the couple of feed zones today where they've picked up their lunch, their muffins and their little bits and pieces that the soigneurs do for them.
Be careful. Sue says, fact, there are fans who sit up and listen and actually watch pro cycling. How about you commentate on the race? She says in capitals. Sue, calm yourself down. We are doing. It's you know, we're in the entertainment business as well as everything else. Clearly Sue's not entertained.
Well, I think the thing is, you know, the race is going on. We can see it on the screen. It's not going to change that quickly that we have to be talking about the race the whole time. So we do have to let you know about the local area, and in a way that's why they bring the race here, so the local area gets some exposure.
Sue's not happy.
Sorry, Sue, but there you go.
Oh, we've got Le Danois, Yvon, from BMC, coming up in just a few moments' time. He's the sporting director. And we'll see what he's got to say. I actually fancied Brent Buchwalter to go for a long one today, but he didn't make the breakaway. In fact, nobody from BMC did, and we're expecting Philippe Gilbert potentially to at least have a late push later on.
But I think anything yet, have they?
The way it's panning out right now, they invested a lot earlier in this race, and then it didn't really happen for them. But you can see them massing on the left-hand side of the road, so right-hand side of your picture of the chasers. So BMC with an interest. So let's have a word with Mr. Le Danois. I believe he's speaking in French, although he does speak impeccable English as well. I wonder how Sue's feeling about that. Well, I thought we were getting Yvon Le Danois. It seems that Le Danois has gone off for a local coffee. Some of you are actually saying the coffee here is great, so yeah, certainly better than the UK there. Here he comes at long last. Maybe just nipped off for a coffee.
Possible d'aller chercher la victoire.
Bien sûr.
Demain notamment.
Bien sûr. Demain, aujourd'hui, tout est possible. Rien n'est figé.
Ça veut dire que demain, on va faire une course offensive. On attend une course offensive de BMC.
Well, is it still possible to win? He said tomorrow, today, all is possible. Nothing is fixed. So wait for BMC to be offensive at the end. Active, yeah, it's not my ambition, to be honest. We'll see how the nature of the race. So I think because we have a good team around us, certainly Quintana's got a great team around him, but he gets wolves in the sheepfold. I have no idea what that means, but anyway, Contador, true offensive rider. He's asking him all. He's asking about everybody. So it could be both. But I'm not here to find allies, he says. Gosh, it's like code speak. If you can work out what Yvon was on about, I think basically he was being asked a whole series of machine gun style questions in very short order about everyone who's a GC contender. And it's not really about that today. Possibly on the last day tomorrow in Barcelona, But the way this is panning out, it's going to be one for the quick men, the way it's stacking up right now. And the GC men, because of the tight gaps at the top, are going to be looked after. Movistar are going to be neutralising things on behalf of Quintana. If Tinkoff with Contador, who's only 7 seconds down, has a go, and likewise Richie Porte is only 17 seconds down, don't forget, for BMC.
Well, Carlton, I was sorry to try and get your attention and interrupt there, but this is a problem here because the wind's coming from the right, and you can see the motorbikes are now getting in the way. They were almost in the middle of the bunch there and having to pull over into that lay-by to get out of the way. So, yep, it's been a problem that the wind's coming from the right, and you can see the bunch riding over to the right and getting the shelter. BMC were massing earlier to look after Richie Porte and get him out of the way, and you can see Agitou moving up on the right hand side of the road. So this one's not dead yet. Certainly not. There, Tinkoff just embedding themselves as well, just keeping a decent shape on the approach. What about Dan Martin? Well, he was lively earlier on today, and he's looking for a podium. He's only 21 seconds down, the Irishman from Etixx Quick Step. Of course, he's had a fantastic victory here in La Molina on stage 3. And indeed took the leader's jersey then, only for Thomas de Gent to take victory and draw out the response from Quintana, who went into that leader's jersey on stage 4. It's been great racing, hasn't it, here? Oh, it's been a fantastic race, and it's not over yet. And we can see here change of direction, so it's gone from a crosswind to a tailwind. So now I expect either the bunch to sit up or that gap to come down very quickly. 2 minutes and 6. It's gone out again. There's been a brief response. I think, to be honest, it's been the peloton just easing up. As we said, they didn't want to make the catch too early. They're happy with around 2 minutes. Well, if you look on the split screen that's just gone away there, you can see the brake is starting to disintegrate a little bit, and the powerhouses at the front and a couple down the back. So it looks like Soudal and Alex Howes struggling to stay in contact going up this little climb here. There we are, 46 Ks remaining. It is going to be a struggle if these guys are going to stay out there. Cameron Meyer, winner of the Herald Sun Tour, in the white there, of black and white I should say, just on the side of the road. Runner-up in the National Road Race as well, the Aussie. He's a proper contender out of a breakaway, but unfortunately he can't do it all on his own. Just going to the front right now is the national champion of Czech Republic, Peter Vakoč. Again, a young man, Vakoč, actually, just 23 years of age. I'm always a bit shocked about that because he's one of those people who I think's been around for quite a while. And as a national champion, he's had his fun early, I think you might say. That's Romain, the Ethiopian, just at the 4 for the time being. Lampre have put in a lot today, and at least they're getting some help now. Sky earlier on in this race also, when we came to the mountains, did a lot of chasing work, and it looked like it cost them in terms of potential victory, I'm afraid, on that particular day. But Chris Froome, last man standing, as is the design when you do push on as a team, but you can burn yourself, and maybe burn yourself a bit too early, and I'm wondering whether Lampre have done exactly that today. Well, they did a lot of work in the last 30 kilometres since we come on air to bring this break back, and I don't want to keep going on about it, but there was no reason for them to do it. They had no one in the break. They've got no one up there on GC overall. So the stage win, yes, or the director bringing out the big stick of you missed the break. So I think there's a lot of teams now that have an interest in bringing this back for the stage win, but you can see the pressure's certainly gone off. Alex Howes and Soudal are back in the front group. Cofidis there, both their riders at the back. Looks like we've got a split at the front here, actually. Yeah, we have got a split at the front. Well, time, if you want to have a go, to do exactly that. We just saw rider Soudal trying to chase onto these guys. Suspected that it might well be that there was a fracturing of this. Axel Dumont has gone for this, so has Bart Lindemann. Who's took stage in the Vuelta last year, you may remember, and Cameron Meyer, the aforementioned, who we said was one of the strongest guys in the breakaway, and so he is proving right now. A little bit of an acceleration, just about caught out rider Soudal. He's responded to try and get back at them. A quartet could go.
But honestly, with the wind blowing up and with the chase being engaged as it is at the moment, I think that they remain doomed with 44 to go. Trying to re-establish a bit more of a gap as the packs hit up.
Yep, and the one of the other characteristics of racing in Spain is the very often long straight road. So a 2-minute time gap can seem very small because of all the cars that you might have in between. You can see the Guardia Civil going up the outside there, so they will leapfrog the race to have a rolling road closure. Obviously, it's not possible to close the whole route for 4 hours or 5 hours, however long the race is going through. So they do a rolling road closure. It keeps the inconvenience to the locals driving around to a minimum as well. So you know, a big gap, so a 2-minute gap can look very small on this road that you've got here. You'll see when the bunch come around this corner, it'll be a long straight piece of road, and they will probably be able to see the bunch and all of the associated team cars just up the road.
Well, it was livened up. Romain is clearly not in a great place at the moment. This shouldn't have been too much difficulty for the great Canadian. And again, he's getting to the latter part of his career now, 35 years of age. And just hugging his wheel is Alex Howes, who looks like he's a 28-year-old. Who went so well, as we mentioned, in the World Championships, finished 12th place. Here's Nero. Quintana looked so fresh. He's one of these guys who, when he comes into the season, when he arrives in his crate from they unbox him from Colombia, he's on it straight away. Looks fantastic, always, it seems, when he re-engages with the competition proper.
He does, and he's got one of those faces that looks like he should be about 40 years old, and I think he's 24 now.
It's amazing, isn't it?
He's very young indeed. And
again, somebody else who has been around seemingly forever,
yeah,
and he's still got a lot of his career ahead of him.
So the brake pretty much back together, it looks like, here on the left-hand side of your screen. 2:13, so it's gone out a bit, and the wind is whipping up here as well, so that's going to play a part. 43k to go. So
Dan Martin
back there.
Sorry, Dan that's Martin. Right. We're reminded by Declan Muesli. I don't know, that's his preferred breakfast cereal. Took the opening sprint of the day. It came after about 14 kilometres, and so it was a big piece of animation. And Dan Martin is now only a second behind Richie Porte for that coveted podium position, which I'm sure he will be going for. So good job at the top of the day. Needs to deliver again at the back of the day. 41 kilometres to go, and yeah, no great hurry, I think it's fair to say. Movistar, the most animated of those who are contending the general classification. Contador is only 7 seconds down at the top of the day behind Nero Quintana, and his Tinkoff team doing a good job. His final year, and he looks amazingly relaxed at the moment, Alberto Contador.
Yeah, looks very relaxed indeed, and coming into this race, he's coming into this stage, sorry, second overall, just 7 seconds down. And yeah, I think in his last year, every chance of him and Chris Froome going head-to-head at the Tour de France.
Something to look forward to, of course, the Tour, all the Grand Tours here on Eurosport, your home of cycling. Looking at the head of the race, and no surprise to see Wanty Group Gobert represented again after Gaëtan Beiler did such a great job yesterday. Finished in third place out of the breakaway amongst some very, very strong riders. So good for him. And Wanty have been in most of the breaks. They're here again with Minard, who was just doing a bit of the pacing. Smiley Chavez is also here for Orica-GreenEdge, and they'll be pleased about that. They've they kind of said they messed up yesterday. And indeed, Guerrero led the charge of those who hadn't made the break, as if to prove a point. But they've got Chavez up the road. Unfortunately, his chances of actually making this stick just starting to die just a little bit. But Gerrans and, of course, Daryl Impey will be part of the sprint vanguard towards the end of the day, in the absence of Nasser Bouhanni, who stepped off the bike after 100% 2 wins, and then thought, well, actually, he said he wasn't well. But I just don't think he fancied investing too much more into the mountains, let's put it that way, although of the quick men he is a reasonable climber. So today it's a long way out, but you're going to pick somebody?
No, not yet.
All right, then.
I just want to go back to Twitter, and we've got a message from Pete saying why are Movistar not using the aero road bikes today? Looks like they're using the Ultimates. A lot of the teams, or a lot of the riders, do favour the slightly less aggressive bikes in stage races, and when they're racing long-term back-to-back. Obviously the Canyon aero bike, the Trek, Madone, the Specialized Venge, all of those fast bikes, they're very unforgiving. There's no movement in the bike, there's no flex in the bike at all, and they're very aerodynamic, but over a long period of time they're not very kind to your body. So you know, the aero road, and you know, sometimes the Demani or the Roubaix for Trek and Specialized are a lot more accommodating. And I know that AG2R have been working very hard with Focus to develop an aero road bike. It's been in development for 3 years, and the riders just aren't fussed about it because the Azalco is that good a bike and that comfortable. So it's not always about, dare I say, marginal gains and the fastest and the best. It's about looking after yourself and being comfortable sometimes.
Well, we've got quite a hiatus at the moment, so we can take some of your questions out there. Tim Barthorpe said, shocked that you're not discussed the mineral material granularity, crystallography and atomic structures of the competing disc brakes. I see what you're doing there, Tim. He's a mate. 38 kilometres to go. I think Tim is having a backwards pop at tech nuts, but you know, tech's all part of it. As far as the bike frames are still remaining pretty compact. I saw some of the cheeky ones that you've actually bought almost as examples to hang in your bike shop, and I was asking you what frames they were. I think you said they were 56s. I said, surely you're not on a 56, but some big guys do prefer a small frame.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't one of those examples you're talking about, but if you look at Ryder Hizerdale, he's got masses of seat pin out.
I know.
And his bars are very low. I've always been slap banging between a 56 and a 58, and someone's going to be cheeky and go, oh, you're a 57 then. But a lot of manufacturers don't make a 57. They go up in 2 centimetre increments from a 56 to a 58. These days, it's not always about the amount of seat pin you have out. Historically it was, and sometimes it looked odd having too much seat pin out, and then we went away from that and it looked odd having not enough out. These days it's always about the length, it's the reach of the bike, having your saddle in the right setback in regards to where the bottom bracket is, and then being able to get the reach. And it's complicated with these top-end aero bikes having the integrated bars and stem. You order your bike with an integrated bar and stem, you suddenly find out you're too short or too long. You have to get a different bar and stem, and it's not now a 70, 80, 90 quid new stem. It's a 400, 500 pound new bars and stem, and virtually a whole new build for the bike, because these days building these aero bikes, honestly, I don't even attempt it. It's that difficult to do with all the different cables and how they're routed through the frame. Gone are the days of changing a brake cable in the car park before a race. Yeah, the mechanic would just laugh at you, you know, because they're just not that easy to work on these days.
You almost need a camera scope to actually thread them through the frame.
Yeah, exactly. You know, massively functional, very aerodynamic, absolutely beautiful pieces of engineering, but in terms of practical and being able to work on very quickly, just not there. That's not what they're made for.
How far is too far as well with bike development? It's almost a constant. It's part of the marketing, of course, that bike manufacturers like to engage with. Tony himself is just opening up a bike shop. What's it called? I'll let you have this. Full
Gas Bikes.
There we are. It's not Erin Fawkes though, is it? Bry's watching. Hello, mate. By the way, I've got my Erin Fawkes t-shirt on. You'd be pleased to know, Bry. Top quality. Very pleased.
No, he hasn't.
Yes, he has.
Oh, yes, he has. He's just lifted his t-shirt up. Oh, that was a horrible sight.
Anyway,
I think to answer your question, Carl, I'm sorry to talk over you, how far is too far? I think there's certain manufacturers and certain teams and riders that won't think how far is too far. They will go for ultimate aero and you know, the most marginal gains they can get. There are other riders, for example Fabian Cancellara, who to a degree shuns the state of the art, especially when he's on the road. I think he's only just gone over to the Shimano Di2 electric gears. He's been on mechanical gears for a number of years, and he rides, the majority of the time, he rides the Trek Damani road bike, which is their classics bike. Isn't the fastest, isn't the most aero, but it's slightly more forgiving and more comfortable. So, you know, I think it's each rider to their own, and I think it's the same with the disc brakes. Some will go for them, some won't. Some will use them when the occasion suits, and some will just shun them and stick to rim brakes the whole time.
It is about weekend warriors, apart from anything else. Bike development. They want to sell you the latest thing and make you hang up your old steed. That's the deal. I mean, it keeps the whole circus rolling. Bike developments and the sponsors that come in because of it. But don't start thinking that your old bike is no good, because quite often it's whatever suits you and how comfortable you feel that dictates how well you go. It's as simple as that. New tech, high tech, not necessarily the best tech as far as you're concerned if you want a decent ride. 36 kilometres remaining then. While we've got this little hiatus in hostilities, it's all going to kick off, you can be sure about that, fairly shortly on this long meandering descent towards the finish. In fact, we can see the sea. I win the Euro for seeing it first. We'll take that break, back in a moment. This is busy. No surprise there. And in fact, one thing that is going to be surprising is apparently we're going to be giving you the result in a few moments' time of the Criterium International opening stage. Now, if you want to watch that later,
leave the room.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a sort of a warning, and then you can just close your eyes, and I won't read it, and then you can make your own decision. I'll give you a warning when it starts and when it stops, so you can close your eyes and then open your eyes again. I think that's the best way. So we won't be reading out the result of the opener of the Criterium International, because we don't want to spoil the broadcasting a little bit later on. I don't know whose idea it was, but anyway. Oh, badly judged corner. Not a nice one at all by Romain. He nearly went off the road. Long sinuous descent towards the coast, and it's almost as if, despite themselves, the main body of the peloton can't help but catch up. It's about under a minute and 40 now, we're hearing, as these guys also just heading into the descent. A few moments ago, while we were on the break, Romain got it very wrong in a curve. He managed to retrieve the situation, but it really was a squeaky moment for him, and the brakes were squealing. And you can hear the motorcycle as well. It sounds like he needs a pad change. The brakes do get pretty hot. I'm talking about the motorcycle now on a descent such as this, because he's dabbing them time and time again, and they do start to fade ever so slightly if you're overworking them, which is why they have signs telling you to use an engine brake all over the place. That is not in the gift of the camera bikes, of course. They just have to keep in the one gear and then use the brakes. But let's just hope that everyone stays safe, because it's a very, very long descent, this. In fact, from our final climb, which we've been, it's not categorised. They're 2Ks into what is a descent of about 7, so 5 remaining. And then there's 27 of sort of rolling terrain, albeit always going down towards the coast. When I was a kid, my dad said, you know, off you go, enjoy yourself. I said, what if I get lost? He said, just because we were on we were holidaying at the coast. He said, just go downhill and you'll find the beach road. It always stuck with me. It was obvious, but never really considered it. Just go downhill and you'll find the coast. That's what we're doing at the moment. 32 Ks out from what is likely to be a bit of a fireworks finish, and it doesn't matter how hard these guys work, they're never going to have the same pace as the pack who are following them. They just have that long line of able to drive into it. They can pick their lines. That's one advantage about being up front.
Yeah, they've got the advantage on the descent that they can pick the lines, and they haven't got to worry about the rest of the bunch behind them. But 11 riders, they've been working hard for a long time to try and keep this breakaway. And, you know, you've got, 180 other riders behind who all have a vested interest in bringing this back. So I think the gap is still just about 2 minutes with 30k to go, and once the front group get down this descent, you will start see them thinking about coming into the finish. 11 riders is too many to take into the finish for a gamble of a sprint between 11 of them. Cam Meyer, one of those that will fancy his chances if it comes to a sprint, but also one of those that can probably chip off with 4 or 5k to go and hold on. So it'll be an interesting one. I think we've already seen that Howes and Heizedal are suffering a little bit. So yeah, the bunch, you can see that they're chasing, but it's not full gas at the moment, is it?
Will be though. 30k's remaining. It is a push, and there's the gap. 1 minute 39. It's sort of holding at the moment, but honestly, so much firepower back here. I think they're doomed out front. If the break is going to make it, then I think it needs to get a bit selective, and they need to get their head down. The way Ryder Heizedal is riding today, I don't know whether it's a bit of kidology, and he fancies just stretching his legs a bit later. Maybe he's put something in the bank, but as we sort of rise and fall, they're at the bottom of this descent now. This is where I was just saying the terrain pitches up and down gently on the way in. There is a climb with about 5k's remaining, something like that, and then it really is a zip down to the line. So they're all just taking on their fluids, kind of thinking about how they're going to engage the day, and it looks like they're not massively motivated. 29k's to go. Why would you be? It's about keeping something in reserve, and I guess if this does break down, you're going to need the strength to escape from your co-breakers. Yeah,
I mean, there's probably a couple in here that fancy their chances of getting away, but I think this break's been away for what, 110, 120k now?
A long time.
So certainly that will have taken their toll.
Finally settled after 60k's, and we've completed 170. So yeah, well over 100 out there on their own.
Yeah,
well,
so,
as a group.
And they've been riding as a group, so not missed many turns, and they've been pushing on. Never really got established with a big lead. It went up to about 5 minutes initially, but then once the bunch finished having lunch and all the rest of it, it came back down, and has been controlled since then at around about 2 minutes.
You know, the guy I'd love to see go well today is Geoffrey Soup. He is, when he was a kid, well, when he was youth rider, he was the king. I think in fact, I'll double check in a few moments' time. He beat some pretty decent riders who've gone on to become greats, and he's very much now had to play second fiddle to the likes of Buani, who he's the sort of the chosen one, of course. But he had the beating of Buani, Bardet, and plenty of others as well in the junior nationals, which he won. I'm just double checking now. Here we are. Back in 2010, Geoffrey. He had the beating of Buani, Bardet, Retzer, plenty of others as well who've gone on and maybe shone just a little bit more brightly than Jeff Soup has. He wears a very luxurious beard. Now, he didn't always wear that beard, but honestly, he looked like a villain from a Charlie Chaplin movie. I think the beard has probably softened him just a little bit, at least in terms of look. Still looks incredibly threatening. But we'll see how the now 28-year-old goes today. He's off the least and off duties. .27k's remaining. With the absence of Buani, I think Geoffrey Soup has got a chance to do something special today. Borut Bozic, I think, will probably lead him out. Bozic was the last lead-out man, supposedly ahead of Buani, but Soup has been the quicker of the two throughout this race. He's clearly on form. He's got two of his teammates up the road as well. Forkov is in the red, Roman Hardy and Rudy Mollard. This was a group of 11. As you can see, it's less than that number right now. In fact, double checking, it's not that far off, is it? Meyer, Hardy, Mollard and Cam Meyer from... they mentioned him twice there. So good they named him twice. He might be. If he's going to be good enough to make it today, though, however, he's got to suddenly start stretching his legs. We've lost a few here.
Yeah, we've lost Howes and Soudal out of this front group, so they've been struggling for about the last 10k, and certainly looks like those two at the very least have been trimmed off with 26k to go. It's down to 126. Bear in mind, in the last 10k of the race, when it's really going full speed, a minute will disappear very, very quickly indeed. So this is going to come back.
So, have you decided who you're going to pick yet?
No.
Honestly, you're so blunt. 26 kilometres remaining. A lot of you, of course, enjoyed the words and thoughts of Tony Gibb during the Track World Championships. It's nice to have you on the road, to be honest, mate.
Thank you very much. And just one thing, we were talking, I think you remember, during the Track Champs, we were talking about Tom Kennison and Kennison Curve, who had a very nasty accident. I think
how is he?
He's actually fine, and apparently he rode his first race yesterday. He rode a time trial yesterday, and I've seen a photo of him doing a ramp test in the last couple of days on Twitter as well. So pleased to say that Tom Kennison is well on his way to making a full recovery from what initially looked like a horrendous accident and borderline life-threatening at the time.
Well,
so pleased as punch.
Good. Get well, or better, even better soon. Been saying the same thing about Giant-Alpecin, a team who were torn apart by a wayward driver down here in Spain on a training run. She was on the wrong side of the road, ploughed straight into them. And the injured list was huge, wasn't it? Bargy was affected, of course. Degenkolb as well, plenty of others, and in fact Degenkolb almost lost a finger amongst his other injuries, including a bad shoulder, and it's effectively knocked him out of the classics.
Yeah, and a lot of the team as well saying that the physical scars of that race, of that incident, are going to heal a lot quicker than the mental scars.
I'm not surprised.
They did say that when it actually happened, it was a horrendous scene. Some of the stuff that they saw.
It was horror movie styly, not great at all. And as you can see, Lawrence Tandam, the Wolfman, is up here as well. He got away with it as far as the incident was concerned, now just singular in its description. I think it's going to, as Tony said, stick long in the memory of Giant-Alpecin. It was an elderly lady, 72, on holiday in Spain, decided to take the car away from her villa and head up the road. Unfortunately, round a hairpin, she was on the wrong side of the road and went straight into Team Giant-Alpecin. And thank heaven nobody was killed, because it was that bad. 24 kilometres remaining, and this looks like a solid threat from these guys. They're just biding their time absolutely beautifully. One of the little roundabouts that's causing a squeal of brakes from the motorcyclers, having trouble getting away. As you can see, the approach speed of the pack here is pretty handy. A lovely day today, but it's going to get pretty focused at the end. Let's just talk about the approach, shall we? Heavy traffic means that they've just altered the finish line ever so slightly and pulled it back to where the Flamme Rouge was going to be. So it means that we've got a very, very long 1.5 kilometre gentle curve, which will bring us to the line. There is a roundabout with near the Flamme Rouge that will then take us to the line. Nothing too serious. It's big, reasonable highway, and in fact, just looking at it, we've got another one as well to deal with before we actually do get to the finish. Roundabouts, there are ways of taking them. You can be tempted to bunny hop, but they'll be guarded against that sort of shenanigans late on. But yes, it's going to be a busy finale. So, do you think Gero, after the disappointment of yesterday, is going to be your man today?
Well, do you know what? I just got my head down and scribbled down 5 names.
5?
I've got 5. Yeah,
You're allowed 2.
I'm hedging my
Go
bets.
on.
I'm allowed 2. Okay. Well, I'll go. Can I have 3?
2.
No, 3. I'm going to go possible last-minute breakaway for Phil Gill or Julian Alaphilippe, and if it comes down to a gallop, Gerrans, with outside bets on Gasparotto and Durasek.
Oh, you had to. You know, you've gone to 4 there. That's absolutely
5.
Outrageous. Blanketing.
I'll get my calculator.
Yes. All right, then. I think Davide Cimolai will have an option today, now that you've hoovered up just about everybody. And the aforementioned Jeffrey Soup with his beard, only because I really want that to happen. So let's see. 23 kilometres remaining, a flare of sunshine. You know, some of the Northern Europeans come here and go, what's that big fiery ball in the sky at this time of year? It's the sun, and it's been absolutely lovely. The weather has been great. There have been some pretty horrible conditions, of course, a shortened course as well on occasion. Last year, in fact, the rains really did come down to the advantage of Dan Martin. He is, after this morning's intermediate sprint, took that, nabbed himself 3 seconds, and is now just a second off the podium, where Richie Porte occupies third place at the moment. He's 17 seconds down. Contador is 7 seconds off Nero Quintana, who of course leads this race. Haven't seen a whole lot of him because we've been focusing on the group up front, who now only have 1 minute and less than that. I Am Cycling clearly believe that they've got an option today, and it's Jonas van Genechten for them, with Pantana, Jarelson Pantano and Elmiger, Martin Elmiger, the Swiss, as his lead-out boys. Why are Lampre doing so much work? Because Davide Cimolai is hungry for success. Louis Meintjes hit the deck, and that was the end of their challenge overall. But Cimolai's got a solid team around him, and they've got the ambition which they're displaying at the moment. 22 Ks out, and to my mind, it looks like the pack are travelling an awful lot faster than these boys. Because of the high-speed nature of the approach, I think the catch is going to be made within the next 4 kilometres. And in fact, it looks like shoulders have dropped ever so slightly amongst this group, does it not?
Yeah, it does, and that's no great surprise. What we've got left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's just the 2 that we've lost in Alex Howes and rider Huizerdal. Great shame there, but you thought they would have been 2 of the stronger riders in this group. But for me, Huizerdal has never really hit the heights that he hit when he won the Vuelta in, when was it, 012?
Giro.
When he won the Giro in 012.
I called it into the Cathedral Square in Milan. It was amazing. It's where he broke the heart of Joaquim Rodriguez on the time trial to finish off the race. Brilliant.
And Alex Howes, for me,
drama.
Strong rider, but wasn't quite there today. Didn't quite have the legs, and you can see now the bunch really moving. And this is where you see the difference between them. What we call riding. So people get confused and they say, "Well, hang on a minute. You said he was riding. Of course, he's been riding his bike all day." That's the sort of in cycling term for putting the effort in as opposed to just coasting along. So you say, well, I Am Cycling were riding on the front. It means they were the ones putting in the pace. They were the ones making the effort to bring the break back.
20 kilometres remaining, an hour straight road, and I'm afraid the breakaway is within sight, or the pack have the breakaway within their sights right now. As you can see, the road just dips ever so slightly. It's kind of like this all the way home, and then we've got a big 90-degree turn coming just on the approach, with roundabouts dogging that approach, I think it's fair to say, as we come through La Broche. There we are. See the little Sedilla?
And this is the sort of terrain here where the bunch will really eat into the breakaway. You see the pan flat road that then kicks up, just this little climb here. You'll see the pace comes out of the break when they go up this little rise. They slow down a little bit, whereas the bunch, one long line in the gutter, and they will hardly slow down when they hit that little rise.
Interesting this as to who might engage, and it might well be that some of the GC contenders find themselves in a position where they might well just go for this. We don't have any out-and-out sprinters. We're talking top draw sprinters. Nasabuani's gone. There are some quick men. They're kind of hard men like Gerrans. Probably prefer it to be a little bit less of an out-and-out sprint today. What I'm trying to say is it could open the door for some of the players within the GC teams, and that's why you're seeing Tinkoff at the moment working so hard. There are bonus seconds up for grabs late on. People like Chris Froome have found themselves on a sprinting day finishing top 5 on Grand Tours and the like. Don't be surprised if you see some of the boys you'd expect to function only in the mountains going for this, and a count amongst those Quintana, who, you know, he can find space when none seem to exist. BMC, though, teeing themselves up absolutely beautifully. Who will be their choice? Philippe Gilbert, of course. Roundabout, best way round this is on the right-hand side for the shortest route. And at moments like this, you need to get that right. If you're going hell for leather, you can make up ground, but you get a roundabout wrong and you can find yourself losing 10, 12 bike lengths very, very quickly with one piece of street furniture, essentially. This gap is narrowing 33 seconds, and as we thought, Tony Gibb, the catch is about to happen.
It is about to happen, and we see the dynamic at the front of the bunch changing very quickly. We go from those teams that are trying to get the stage win, bringing it back together, to those teams that are looking after their GC riders, trying desperately to keep them out of trouble. Maybe we're going to have a change of direction, so the wind's going to affect that, but we saw Tinkoff trying to stay at the front with Contador, Movistar getting involved with Quintana as well. So there's a lot of different dynamics up for play here.
I think the danger, of course, for the leader, and it's a modest margin of 7 seconds over Alberto Contador, suddenly he sees Tinkoff engaging in the battle. Big shake of the head there. That tells a lot, doesn't it, from Axel Dumont, as if his director sportif says, I can see you on telly. And he shakes his head and says, well, so what? It's not going to be a breakaway day today. So well done to these guys. There'll be somebody who just rolls off the nose. I suspect it'll be Minard from Wanty Group Gobert as the train comes through, but they're clearly not racing, as you can see, but these guys most certainly are. And look at it, most of the pace recently was injected by Tinkoff and Movistar, the two principal teams for Quintana and Contador. They don't want to be caught out by being in a non-safe place if all hell breaks loose before that magic 3k to go marker.
And that's exactly what's happening. We've got so many different teams involved, from Lotto Soudal, 2 riders on the left, Movistar, Tinkoff, Orica-GreenEdge coming up on the right, and AG2R as well. So there's a lot of different teams, and there's a lot of different interest here, isn't there? There's protecting your GC rider against stage win.
Very much so. One guy we haven't mentioned who can go very quickly, and I think he's got a very good chance. He tried to get in the break earlier on today. I think we're minded to do it locally is Caio Roral, and it's Carlos Barbero. Now he's got Edward Prades to lead him out, and as Tony was saying earlier on, Caio Roral could be a World Tour team, but they kind of hold themselves back in Pro Conti for economic reasons apart from anything else. They've got Hugh Carthy who leads the Young Riders competition, but don't be surprised to see Carlos Barbero pop up at the end and basically just try and mug some of the bigger names that might spring to mind more readily. Big river estuary that heads down towards the coast, mixture of fresh and salt water. Castellet Castle, 16 kilometres to go. Nice beauty shot, but I'd love to get back downstairs and have a look. And here we are, and it's a little bit of a knockback. Kirienka is starting to sniff the air out front as well. Tony Gibb, this is getting a bit nervy.
It is getting very nervy indeed, but we see the two teams on the front are the teams of first and second place overall. Nairo Quintana for Movistar in the dark blue with the green M on the front, and for Tinkoff in that fluorescent yellow. You're not going to get those two teams confused, looking after the interests of Alberto Contador. Just 7 seconds between those two as the break is breaking up the front, because they're putting the pressure on and trying to just eke out those last few seconds of TV time before they get caught.
Nicely rendered tower we've just been by. Yes, smooth as silk. Somebody's going to be today amongst the rough diamonds who are going to have a go at this. Cannot wait. 16 kilometres remaining. Big hit that's going to happen on one of the little climbs that come late. In fact, this is what they're engaged with right now. They come up towards that castle. That is a smooth tower. It looks part of the local space program. We move on. 15 kilometres to go then. In fact, they're on a little kick. They will go down into a little vale. They'll go on another climb before they finally get the chance to open up the taps. But there's a lot of firepower here. All right, it's not top draw sprinters. I think even Gerrans will allow me to say that in the absence of Bouhanni.
Yeah.
But what that means is there's so many different options as one of the Cofidis boys from the break just backs in. He's done his job for today.
Yep, so the break now really coming back at a rapid rate of knots. And while Carlton was talking about the local Spanish well-known space program, we've only got 5 or 6, 7 riders left out of the front front, but the back of the bunch on this small little climb was falling to bits. There were riders just getting dropped left, right and centre. 37 seconds. So the net result is still about the same to the front group, but riders are dropping away from it very quickly. For those of you watching racing for the first time, 37 seconds within the last 15k of a race like this is nothing. It will disappear very quickly indeed.
So we've got yet again a little bit of a knockback. As you can see, there's no great willingness to take up a real out-and-out pace, because they're going to save that until the very last. The main general contenders, of course, leading the general classification is Nairo Quintana and his Movistar team. You can see his white jersey there just behind the two dark blue riders, and likewise just holding his wheel and maybe just not wanting to or maybe taking a chance to take advantage of a break is, of course, Alberto Contador is only 7 seconds down. Now, I don't think we're going to get a huge surprise here. I think it will come down to a sprint, but don't be surprised, likewise, if somebody decides to go long. And I'm thinking somebody, I don't know, with a bit of cheek about them, like Kirienka, if he's allowed to just stretch his time trialling legs. Stranger things have happened. So it's Lampre at the moment, working for Davide Cimolai. He is an option today.
He is an option indeed. I'm not really sure he's got the firepower to outsprint someone like Gerrans, Durasek or Gasparotto, but they certainly need to get something out of this race, because they haven't got much at the moment. And another nice picture of the scenery, but we could really do with a bike race on screen at the moment.
So Gilbert, it is, that's the prediction of Richard, race viewer. There he is. Richard's gone all in with Gilbert. It's a good choice. He's a fast man, and if there's elbows involved, he's a strong man as well. 13 kilometres to go, and I think we may well have lost some pictures, because this one's telling us not terribly much from this kind of distance. There we are. The link is back up. Looking at the head of the race, still our breakaway. Have they got some belief? Well, Cameron Meyer believes that he can do amazing things. Well, we know that from Cameron, especially from the Herald Sun Tour. A runner-up in the Nationals there, and has a look behind him. He doesn't want to get caught, but I think it may well be all too late.
I think it may well be too late, but he's going for those last few minutes of TV time. Cam Meyer there. It's very easy to get the Dimension Data kit muddled up with the Trek Segafredo kit. Very similar from a front view, but here comes the rest of the break with AG2R driving into this corner. So slight advantage for the breakaway on this tight twisting road, and there's the bunch in your picture, and that's slimmed down quite a bit, hasn't it?
Certainly has. And Francis Tejay engaging. Kevin Metzer would be their choice today. Don't count out Lorenzo Manzin as well. These are names that you wouldn't normally be conjuring with on, let's say, a Grand Tour where the elite of the sprinting world are in place, but nonetheless they're very fast men, and with the levelling of the playing field in the absence of Nasser Bouhanni, we've only had 2 sprint days, don't forget. He won both of them and then he went home, so he's not here, but plenty of other quick men most certainly are. Gasparotto's also moving in for Wanty Group Gobert. Gaetian Byler, we saw go well yesterday, is also still in the house bizarrely today on a very different day. 12k's remaining.
12k's remaining, tight twisty road here, so the advantage with the riders at the front of the bunch, staying out of trouble, keeping their riders out of trouble. You can see Tinkoff just down the back there on the left, trying to move up. We've also got Orica-GreenEdge amassing in their white kit with a blue helmet. You can pick them out.
I'm wondering if Francis Tejay know that this is quite technical and difficult to master, and which is why they've sent Retzer, who is, I believe, their sprint choice today, to P4 in the chase down. So I don't know, maybe he's thinking there's going to be a little bit of fracturing of the situation with 11 kilometres to go. These guys still, it seems, have some belief, and they're still churning it. Well, I thought that Vakoc, is it our Czech champion, Peter Vakoc of Etixx? I thought he'd backed out, but no. Vakoc just peels off, and in fact there is Cam Meyer in the black and white that comes through right now. It was Vakoc that was setting the pace for Etixx Quick Step in his unfamiliar Czech national jersey, and it is Francis Tejay that are going all in at the moment.
They are just 6 riders left in that front group at the moment. FDJ in their white and blue kit on the front, Lampre just behind them, 2 riders for them. You can see Tinkoff just about 15th, 16th position at the moment with a couple of riders, and Lotto also with 2 riders. So no one team really dominating at the moment. Orica-GreenEdge just moving up on the right of your picture there, and they will be leading Simon Gerrans out, but really the pace is on with 11k to go. Don't forget the whole run into the finish is net downhill, finished by the sea today, so it's a net downhill finish with a little kick up, just about 3k from the finish.
Well, I'm reading it as 7.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
Don't forget it's moved though. So
yeah, it has just a tad. So we'll see where they get it.
It's a bit of an unknown, unfortunately, isn't it?
They're still going down. We'll find out when they start climbing again, because that will announce it. It's only about 1,500 meters of climbing, and they're still descending just for now. The sun as well, very low frequency at this time of year. The shadows extremely long, and these guys, I'm afraid, it's it's going to be, I believe, a hiding to nothing, but they've still got a gap, and they've still, albeit modest one, with 10k's to go.
10k's to go, and the break just settled down a little bit more. The road flattening out a little bit, still up in the mountains, descending down towards the seafront. So 6 riders left out of a break, which was originally 11. Looks like we've got the one Cofidis rider left at the back, so we've lost the other one. We've lost Howes, we've lost Hizadal, haven't we? And so this has slimmed down quickly. I can't see the Wanty Group Go Bear rider in here at the moment. Minard, I think he's gone as well. So is Chavez still here, or has he been called back to be put onto minor lead-out duties? I think they will have called him back.
Quite possibly. Looks like it. Not going to be just burning himself, Chavez. He's got a big day tomorrow, of course, with 8 category 3 climbs at the end in Barcelona. So no surprise if he is just being rested ever so slightly, despite the fact he engaged with the escape today. 9 kilometers to go. We still haven't bounced to take on the climb, so it suggests that we may be as you were as far as the finish is concerned. Let's have a look. Burying themselves, and it is our friend Cam Meyer off the nose. He then just exchanges with Bertrand Lindemann of Lotto Jumbo. Took a stage in the Vuelta last year, and a pretty handy one as well, but it was an uphill finish that day. 9 kilometers remaining, and still no out-and-out high-speed approach just for the time being, despite the fact we're on a downhill run, as you can see, and it looks like 43 seconds. Wow. Well, it's starting. They're going to start thinking that they've got a chance at breakaway. They've put a lot of power into this.
This will certainly be one of the latest catches we've seen. 42 seconds with 8k to go. That's good going. The general rule of thumb is a minute with 10k to go. So this could be good here. This could be an interesting one.
It certainly could, because Francis Hijau have said, look, we're not going to be anyone's patsy here. You can join the fun if you want to, but we're not going to sacrifice ourselves for everybody else. There is our rider from Wanty, that's Minard, who just goes back. Maybe, don't think he's going to be helping Gasparotto on the approach. Well, has it all been for nothing is the big question, and Lampre starting to look at each other and saying, look, we've done all the work right now, somebody else do some. The GC contenders, they're not going to invest too much into the chase down, because for them it's about staying safe, and it may well be minor places if they don't get themselves sorted out. Orica-GreenEdge, I think, have got most to lose here. They want a stage win, and suddenly it's they that take up the pace.
Yeah, they've got nothing else out of this race at the moment. They've got no one in the top 15 on GC, so they really have got the most to lose. I don't think Gerrans will be up for tomorrow's stage. He's not firing on all the cylinders that he fired on a few years ago, is he? He's just lost that top end, I think.
He was kind of up for it yesterday when he led in the pack when the breakaway had gone, but I think, honestly, everyone had sort of given up the fight, really, and thought, what's the point? So we'll find out what Gerrans can offer us today, or maybe Daryl Impey. They could swap duties. There's your gap. It
don't look like 43 seconds to me.
No, it doesn't. I think that was a missed time. Maybe that's why they're not showing us the times during this race, is because they can't be trusted. I was just about to say, Cameron Meyer is looking lively, and I think he's fed up with baggage. Is he going to stretch his legs and go for this? He's capable, he's a strong man.
Well, he is capable. He is a strong man. I'll tell you what, Carlton, that's 13 seconds.
There we
not
are.
43.
Well, thank heaven you've rolled your sizable timepiece. I don't know why you don't just throw a leather strap round Big Ben. I've never seen such a big wristwatch. 7 kilometres to go. He does like his watches. Can we please get downstairs and have a look at what's going on? There we are. There is the gap. The visual tells you Tony's absolutely right with his big clock on his wrist. And here we go. So they've suddenly realised that the game's back on. And Orica-GreenEdge, I think, have got to start as favourites in our mind now with 9 seconds. That's more like it. Somebody else has basically listened to us and punched that one in. And looking back to see if anyone's picking it up pace-wise behind. BMC are moving into position as well, but I think this is all so far anyway. Francis de Jure are the late pushers, but there's so many teams with an option here today, and they're all starting to look at each other, believing that the catch has already been made with 6 to go. So this is that last climb we were telling you about. It looks like the course has been shortened by about 800 metres just to get away from the holiday traffic on this Easter weekend. So who's going to be celebrating at the end? You're going to have to stay here to find out. And it's a fascinating one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if we're going to see a last-minute attack from a Gilbert or an Alaphilippe, it's going to go on this climb, I would think. Or they will certainly try it. The break is a little bit resigned here. They're still trying, but you know, the rider from AG2R has now been dropped.
Looking at the head of the race, only 6 kilometres to go on this, the penultimate stage of the 96 Volta Catalunya. And still, they believe, Vakoc it is that's doing the driving, the Czech champion from Etixx Quickstep. Just behind him is Cameron Meyer, and I suggest they're the 2 strongest contenders within this group. They also have, along with them, Bart Lindemann, who took a stage on the Vuelta last year, so no slouch at all in the yellow and black. And just trying to see who else is still with us. One of our Cofidis boys, I believe it's Rudy Mollard, likewise. So 6K only, and they're a quartet of hope at the moment, but I'm afraid they may well get flamed by the boys who are tracking them as we speak. They've pulled out a little bit more of a gap as they push on, and the pack just kind of arguing without actually saying anything about who's going to pick it up. It's Retzer that goes for this now. He's got no more teammates around him and clearly believes he's got something to offer himself as a quick man for Francis de Jure. Ultimately, it comes down to the brave, I guess.
Well, 6K to go. Retzer's not doing himself any favours by dragging this one back. If he's the nominated sprinter and looking through FDJ's team, I can't see anybody else that will be able to mix it with the fast guys. So Retzer, they're trying to bring us back. 4K to go. We lost about a K there very quickly, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. It is Mollard, the 27-year-old, was third on the Tour of Turkey a couple of years ago. Remember it well. Amongst the halva. 4K's out then, and this is that little roller coaster that they're coming into right now, and there's several roundabouts. This is a road intersection that's going to catch a few of the chasers out if they're fully lit up.
Stand
that
by.
Could be a nasty one, couldn't it?
Yep, stand by if the bunch come barreling into that full speed ahead.
And here
we
are.
go.
Watch this. Some are going to go straight on, and they do. Had to be. Well, plenty of them misjudged that corner. There was no whistle or pennant man, so no surprise that some of them got caught out. Here we are then, 3 kilometres out is this air bridge right now. They're in full view of the chasers. There is a 90-degree turn to take, and then it will be a long, lazy right-hander to the line today. So, are they going to stay out there? Don't think so, but who's going to pick it up and go for this? They're starting to think about it right now. Is that Wanty that just hit the front? Can't quite see. It's Giant-Alpecin. So Giant want to take big strides, and this is for Nikias Arndt, who's still very much in the house, don't forget, as far as the sprinters are concerned. Good choice for them. Just behind it's Impey and Gerrans at the moment, freeloading on the Giant train as we speak. Katusha still here with Satovic, their principal sprinting choice for Team Katusha in the red, and it's all going to be a late catch, but still they need a bit more pace. Still they need a bit more pace. Yeah, it's only about, what, 2.3 remaining. I think that's wrong. It says 3K, but you see the 2K to go, Bala. The catch is going to come, and it's going to be very, very late here. I don't believe that anyone's got anything left out of this group. Somebody's going to roll the dice. Who's it going to be? Cam Meyer would be my guess. He looks like he's still teeing up for it, but he'd have to go pretty pretty soon and maybe have an ally. They still roll one after the other, team time trial style, but the mob are coming and they've got a lot of firepower here. And there's the 2K banner, which our breakaway is taking now. It's not too much of an advantage. We're going to come into town. Let's not speculate, let's call it.
8 seconds is the gap at the moment with 2K to go. So the bunch are barreling down here. This is really going to be touch and go.
I think they've got them. I think it's less than 8 seconds as we speak for the time being. Here they go then. They're starting just to get into principal order with lead-outs. Rolling to the front goes Peter Vakoch. The big man, he punches a big hole in the air, and that's the advantage of those who are with him. Rudy Molnár just comes to the front right now, and here they are at long last. This is Tinkoff that are going for this. Maybe for Matteo Tossato, the only man who's got anything quick about him.
Here we go, 5 seconds left. This is going to be tight here if they're going to bring this one back. Look at the bunch behind flicking around all over the road. This is really going to be a tight finish. We saw Orica. They've lost a couple of riders, so Gerrans near the front, but Giant really did have control.
Flamme Rouge about to come. They've got this little incline. This is a 90-degree turn. It's smoother than it would have been earlier on. And here we are. We look down. That's Cimolai, who's now in P2 at the moment, just behind Louis Vervaeke of Lotto Soudal. 1K, we've been through the Flamme Rouge, and I'm afraid it's going to be a very, very late push, this one. Last kilometre, then it's Vakoch that threads the needle just for the time being. Round the roundabout. Maybe some of the teams don't realise that this course has been shortened today. Vakoch has a look. He's time trialling his way. He's a big man. He's got a lot of power. Is it all too late for the chasers? Philippe Gilbert is also in the house here. I think the catch is going to be made about now. Here we are.
Meyer goes.
It is Cam Meyer, the Australian, off the front. Cam Meyer takes the final turn. I think you may well bring this one home. Gritting his teeth. Cameron Meyer is actually lit up at the moment. Have a look behind. You can see that Covid is still here with Bozic. They're trying to get back into the frame. Can't do it at the moment. Meyer's going to get caught. He's going to get caught at the very last, is he? Oh, heartbreak for him as others come through. And going for it now is Davide Cimolai. He hits the nose. Cimolai for a Lampre. Holds his hands up. That was as late a take as you're ever going to see in cycling. Heartbreak for the breakaway. Lampre did so much work, and in the end, they get their just rewards.
Well, Cimolai there takes the win for Lampre-Merida, and to be fair, with the amount of work that the team put in for him to get that one, you would have been absolutely gutted if you hadn't have got that, wouldn't you?
He had to take it, and he did.
Wouldn't have been a pleasant dinner table, would it? He wouldn't have been the most favourite person in the world if he hadn't have won that one.
Paella rice all over the place. Wow. What about that? Oh, complaints about wheels and all the rest of it. He doesn't mind. All fair in love and sprinting.
To a level, yeah, to a level. I didn't see much wrong with that. It was a very messy sprint. There wasn't a lot of space on the road. It was a short run in, and you know, he was very close. But yeah, he took the win there, and Gerrans was quite disappointing. Didn't really get going, did he?
Was that Louis Vervaeke complaining? Let's have a look at it.
Well, can't see anything there. Can't even see Louis Vervaeke anywhere near him at the moment. So. I mean, Cimolai did sit up a little bit early and get his arms up. And it was I think he was saying that the Giant-Alpecin rider sort of switched around Cimolai, but no, there was even plenty of room there. Gerrans, I think, was fourth. Here we go, we've got the overhead, so Cimolai lights up with about 200 metres to go and holds on.
I think it's Nikias Arndt that came through and then just sat up at this point and maybe just drifted ever so slightly. Yeah. My guess is that it's in front of the aggrieved Vervaeke. We will see. So, in the end, hard work pays off, and Lampre have done it with Cimolai at the line. A lot of tired bodies out there. We've still got another stage to go before we can crown our champion, but it looks like the work that's being done, solid work by Movistar for Nairo Quintana, is going to be enough to preserve that leader's jersey, albeit by a margin of 7 seconds over Alberto Contador. Cimolai takes it ahead of Nikias Arndt. Tosh Van der Sande it was from Lotto Soudal, incidentally, at the end. Simon Gerrans, I thought Tosh Van der Sande had stepped off the bike, so I don't know whether that graphic is in error. Simon Gerrans then and Daryl Impey just didn't have what it took at the end, and well, Lampre determined to show themselves at the fore throughout most of the day. They did a hell of a lot of work, and as you quite rightly said, Tony Gibb, he had to deliver after all that effort.
He did have to deliver, and he did deliver as well, but the questionable one for me is Gerrans and Impey, 4th and 5th. You know, you shouldn't have two riders in the top 10 like that. You should have, you know, there should have been one designated lead-out rider and one designated sprinter, and that lead-out rider shouldn't be able to hang on and get himself in the top 10 like that. So a little bit questionable there, but yeah, Lampre, and here we go. This is the last sort of 500 metres, isn't it? And this is just about where Cam Meyer decides to light it up coming out of that roundabout. We can see Vakoc leading it out. And at this stage it was touch and go if they were going to catch them, and this is where Meyer lights up down the right hand side of the road, and at this stage he has a fairly healthy lead. The bunch get bulked a little bit by the 3 remaining riders out the break, but then Vakoc gets it back and starts chasing Meyer down. It's Vakoc that brings him back, and then the Lotto Soudal rider that ends up hanging on for 3rd place or 4th place, Lindemann, does a great ride. You can see there Impey on the right with Gerrans on his wheel, and then Nikias Arndt over on the right as well. There goes Cimolai, and opens up a big gap, and Gerrans didn't really have the legs to even get out of the saddle, did he? He just sort of stayed sat down, pulled a face, and didn't get there. Vakoc there holds on for 5th or 6th.
Super day, great victory.
Sì,
and is it
finalmente è arrivata una bella vittoria.
Right, the biggest moment of the day?
Dopo aver insomma lavorato tutta la giornata, la cercavamo da.
Well, every day my team worked hard for me, he says. But we had the motivation to go for it at the end. And this is for them.
Era molto importante.
So hugely important for the team. Yeah, this is vital for us.
Però sapevo che la condizione
you know, you need a little bit of luck out there as well.
Oggi finalmente è arrivata. Grazie a voi.
Oh, sorry, I was being bounced back my own voice for some strange reason, but so missed some of that. Could have translated it for you, but I think we got there. He's dedicated to his team, who've been working extremely hard for him. Nairo Quintana then leads Contador by a margin of 7 seconds. Dan Martin, after taking the first intermediate sprint of the day, found 3 seconds bonus, and so closes the gap on a podium place to just 1 second from Richie Porte, who occupies 3rd place for now. Well, so it's still to play for, and tomorrow, to be honest, it could be fireworks for the opening intermediate sprint
day tomorrow.
of the day. I'm just looking at where the first intermediate comes. It's extremely early, which is going to tempt them to go for this. It comes after 9 Ks into tomorrow, and Dan Martin will be up for that, and I suspect Richie Porte will be too.
There'll be a few riders on the rollers tomorrow morning, won't there? It's an early start tomorrow as well, isn't it?
It is, very early start, so check your listings. We're going to be on earlier. I believe it's 12:30 in the United Kingdom, so work out your own time zones from that. Thomas de Gendt leads points and mountains as we stand. It looks like, well, mountains competition still open because of the 8 Category 3 climbs at the end of the day, but I think he's good for that jersey and possibly intermediates as well. So there we are. There's the intermediate sprint standing. So he's being greedy with the jerseys, is Thomas, just for the time being. So look forward to your company tomorrow. Tony, you're going to be back in the hot seat?
I am indeed. Can't wait. It's going to be a great, explosive days of bike racing.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing Hugh Carthy pull on the Young Riders Classification jersey, a competition he leads ahead of David Formolo by a margin of 44 seconds. And it could be a solid top 10 finish for him as well. Good news. Well, there's your team classification for you as well. The podiums generally take quite a long time, so we don't always hang around for them, I'm afraid. So it may well be we bid you a fond farewell. Tony, enjoyed it?
Oh, very much so. It's one of those, you know, stage racing like this is great because it's so unpredictable and you never really know what's going to happen. Whereas the big Grand Tours are a little bit more. you can predict it that little bit more.